music, what does Allegro mean? And that is how you pronounce it. Because as most of you know, my background is in music. So on the back of your packet, you guys have Cornell notes. So our topic is inequalities, which, believe it or not, are just like equations, with one exception, and I will go through that in a moment. It's Algebra 1. We happen to be in period 2, and today is 12, 11, 12. It's a palindrome. Yeah, tomorrow's 12, 12, 12. And I have all my classes. So just to start out, we are going to do number 1, which is 4x minus 7 is greater than 17. So when you start doing an equation, or an inequality, you're going to treat it exactly like an equation. So what you're going to do is first you're going to isolate the variable expression, because this is just a two-step inequality. So first you're going to isolate the variable expression. So it's hanging out with negative 7 here. So what are you going to add to both sides? Positive 7. So let's add positive 7 to both sides. So what would our question be to go with that process? What question would we ask? Avid students? What would you say here? To isolate the variable expression, or what question would you say? So the first thing we're going to do is isolate the variable expression. 4x, and then bring the operator, usually the equal sign, but bring the inequality sign down. So 17 plus 7 is 24. Okay. You're going to isolate the variable now. You're going to isolate the variable x by doing what? What are you going to do when you isolate the variable x? Yes? Divide each side by 4. So now x, bring the inequality sign straight down, is less than 6. So this one, you're isolating the variable. And you're solving. So the question is, what's the difference between equations and inequalities? Do you see one? On this one? Do you see a difference between equations and inequalities other than the sign?
No.
Did we do anything different? No, we really didn't. Now if we move down to number 6, negative 9x plus 5 is greater than or equal to negative 58. And that is our given. And excuse me. Are they ever different? Is going to be my question here. In other words, yeah, sometimes. Okay? So first we're going to isolate our variable expression, and how are we going to do that? What are we going to do to isolate our variable expression?
Try and get negative 9x by itself.
Get negative 9x by itself by adding what to both sides? It's already a positive 5, so we're going to use negative 5. So we're going to add negative 5 to both sides. Now we have negative 9x is greater than or equal to negative 58 plus negative 5 is negative 63. Now we want to isolate the variable. And this is where it becomes tricky. We want to isolate the variable. And to do so, we are going to divide both sides by negative 9. When we multiply or divide by a negative number, it affects the inequality. Why? Well, if we look at a number line, you look at a number line, okay, there's 0. We're currently at negative 65. And if we multiply by a negative number, what happens to it? It's going to bounce all the way over here, right? If something bounces, let's say this is a mirror. And if it's a mirror, it's going to go from this to this. Call your greater than or equal to on the mirror. If it's bouncing across the 0, won't your inequality sign have to become a mirror image? So if you multiply or divide by a negative, you're going to have to bounce or create the mirror image of your inequality sign. So when we solve this, x, and then this becomes positive 7, we're going to have to take this inequality sign because we bounced across 0 and flip it. And that's why we flip the sign. Solve and flip because we went across that 0. Because when you multiply or divide by a negative, we have to change the sign. And if we have to change the sign, we also have to change the inequality because of the mirror image, because of the bounce across 0. So are they ever different? Yes. When we have to change the sign, when we multiply or divide, not when we add or subtract, by a negative number. Does that give you a reason for changing the sign rather than just do it? Does that help?
Yeah.
Good.